Hey, everybody, it's great to see you. Welcome to another episode of Parenting Upstream. My name is Jerry Blackburn, and I'm joined with my dear friend and colleague, Marcelle Waldman. We haven't done this for a while, so it's so awesome to be back and chatting with each other and chatting about parents and yeah. So my name is Jerry Blackburn. I'm the program director for Empower Youth Network. We're a youth serving organization that really works upstream, engaging initiatives rooted in prevention to kind of change the trajectory for young people. And I'll let Marcelle introduce herself. And
Great. Well, thank you. I'm so glad we're talking again. I know life got quite busy for us, and I guess for me, I can tell you why here in just a minute. But so I am a mom of two. I've got my own small business called FeelLinks, and it really is all about educating and inspiring parents and teachers and community members around how we are building up and nurturing emotional intelligence in our children, more focused on the younger age, which is why we thought putting our expertise together would really create sort of this powerful, upstream line of these younger children and then to our teens and adolescents. So I'm an author, and not only of one, but now two books. So my 12-year-old daughter and I just finally got our copies of our new book called Field Trip. And really, it's all about teaching kids about emotional vocabulary, sort of like the feelings in our bodies, like what those cues are and what they're telling us. And then what do I do with those? So it's about coping skills, perseverance, grit, asking for help when we need help, and just a really sweet rhyming book that we wrote together. And I feel really proud and excited for us that this is finally getting out there. And so, so now an author of two books, and just continuing to, myself be a lifelong learner and putting out that learning to others. So thank you.
Nice. That is the best thing ever. And then you were just on King Five's New Day Northwest.
We were on New Day Northwest, and it was such a fun and very cool experience to have with my daughter, because I can't remember, but how many years ago, I don't even remember what the show was called, but I was on it as a hair model with this guy that cut my hair years back, right? And totally different space now, not even the same host. I think it's been through multiple hosts since then. But, so I was very young when I went on. So it was just really neat to bring her there and tell her way back when I was on this, Seattle-based morning show. But yeah, just seeing my 12-year-old be asked questions and be able to, confidently answer and just know that, why we did what we did and why we created this book and why the messages in this book are so important for kids and for parents and caretakers to really to use this as a tool, and just getting to sit next to my daughter and do that was just really special.
Yeah, that was awesome. So awesome to watch. Yeah, I can't imagine. That's so cool. That's very cool.
Yeah. So,
nice.
So I just wanted to say that, there are so many tools out there for our younger population and our older, population of kiddos, and, just seeking the things that are supportive and nurturing and helpful in your home or in your space is great. And there's tools out there, and definitely learning about what those are and what works for your family is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. So cool, right? So great to see. So when we were thinking about topics for this edition, we started to think about just anecdotally things that are occurring in our communities with young people. And in my work, we've been exposed to just a lot of it's hard to even describe. It's almost like an angst and overall discomfort that young people are having, and it's translating into just kind of some behavioral struggles. And
Mhm.
so we've been having a lot of community conversations about, okay, so what is the impetus for that? What is the pathology, right? We really came out of COVID looking for the development of relationships and reconnecting with our kids, which is totally vital, right?
Right.
As they had been isolated and needed to get back into those social structures and be connected. Um, and so the conversation started to happen around, okay, so did we do that pendulum swing where rather staying in the middle, right? We
Mhm.
swung all the way over to relationships and we discarded um, consequences, natural consequences, those structures that create safety and boundaries around young people so they feel secure, right? Any parent knows that when a child has like too much rope, they're out there beyond their developmental capacity and it's uncomfortable. And
Right.
so, then maladaptive decision making can potential. And so we pull them back in, right? And we say,
Mhm.
okay, so here's this, right?
Right.
And then you set up those age appropriate, developmentally appropriate boundaries, and
Yes.
then they are almost instantaneously. I remember with when mine was younger, like comfortable again. Like they know
Yes.
that they're safe and somebody is watching them and caring for them. And so we thought we'd kind of talk about that in a real um, general way. And you started our conversations thinking about consequences versus
Mhm.
punishment, and I was really interested to hear some more about that.
Right. So, I guess when we think of consequences, I think of more of like a natural effect that happens because of something, whether it's because of an action, an inaction, which I'm sure as parents, we all know what those inactions might look like.
Mhm.
Um, and it needs to be a consequence is relevant to the situation, right? As opposed to a punishment. So a punishment might look something like, well, everything's going away because X has occurred.
Mhm.
And the difference between that is really, are we taking all these things away to like create, learning? Because what we know is saying, oh, now all of your electronics are gone for a month, or you can't, or you're punished to not
Grounded
see your
forever.
friends, right? I mean, that was the thing for me, I think, growing up was like, you're grounded. And that meant like no friends, no phone, no nothing. And it's like, this can be impressionable on me, but it can also start kind of making that wedge too, right? And what did I learn? If I came home late, don't I need to like practice coming home early? Like,
Mhm.
so the natural consequence in a situation like that would be more of, I'm trying to learn something new, right?
Mhm.
So if I used my phone for something that, let's say, was not appropriate, right? And maybe the phone went for a couple of days because now we need to understand, let's track back, let's go back to the boundaries, let's go back to the rules, and this was a natural consequence. But 2 days without my phone is really different than like a month without my phone, because now I'm
Mhm.
going to get my phone back and I'm going to understand that whatever it was that I did had this consequence to it. Maybe I had an upset friend. That was a natural consequence for what I did on the phone.
Mhm.
And then I had my phone taken away, which was again a natural consequence because that was the thing. But
Mhm.
now I'm going to use it again, and I'm going to have some, currency in the situation of like, I don't want that to be gone again, but I
Mhm.
understand that this is, the natural consequence that happened. So I think it's really important that we bring back those, what are those boundaries, but also understanding that when our children go and kind of break the boundaries, that we think about how do we naturally have a consequence that doesn't cause this, like, punishment barrier with our children. And I think part of that too, like we were saying, I think that breaks some of that safety.
Mhm.
And that, you know, when our children can understand that we are trying to teach a learning objective through the consequence rather than build this kind of break with a punishment,
Mhm.
I really feel like they will eventually, and even if it doesn't happen right then, but there is an understanding that this person cares, this person is teaching me something, and there is safety here, and there's a reason.
Yeah.
Like our job as parents, right? Like there's a reason why we are helping to model and be the caretakers that we are for these children to grow up into, great citizens.
Mhm.
So we need to understand those. And I really feel like there's that big piece that needs some understanding of what is a consequence and really what is a punishment, and which way do you want to handle those things in your home or in your classroom as an educator.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, when we look at the system that kids are engaging in schools and stuff, are they seeing those natural consequences occurring that create classroom management practices of safety and security?
Right.
In some circumstances, we might have that pendulum might have swung so far to the relationship that we're worried about providing consequences and creating those opportunities to see boundaries, so that it might not even be the relationship with those two individuals who are experiencing it,
Right.
but everybody else is watching. Right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
the discomfort comes when your natural understanding of what should transpire is kind of removed, and then like, oh, right.
So I would add to that. So one of the things that I encourage, when I talk to staff or I talk to parents, of course, this is younger children, but this also can work for our older children as well. But how sort of that idea of like banishing from the classroom, like what is that doing? Like get out of here, and then what? Then you can come back when I call you back in. What did we just teach? We didn't really teach anything, right? So I often talk about, using spaces, like whether it's a peace corner, or a calm space, or somewhere where we have tools and resources that can help a child. And depending on the age and development and all of that, yes, is there an adult there to show them that they're safe, that there is a consequence for the behavior that maybe took place in this space. But that doesn't mean that I'm going to send you out into the hallway and then call you back in when you're calm, because that to me doesn't feel like we've learned anything. And we need to think of what the objective is in a situation like that. And so when we're looking at middle school, high school, right, we need to think about what are the natural ways for us to be able to that time with that child might not be like immediate because you've got a whole class, right?
Yeah.
You need to kind of come up with like, what is your plan and what aligns with your values as an educator to be able to, talk with or talk through something with that student at the appropriate time. And I'm not talking about if someone's in a safety situation, right?
Yeah.
If it's an unsafe situation, that is obviously imminent and dangerous, and we need to take care of it immediately. But when it comes to the kiddo that, maybe we would have called the class clown, or someone who likes to be the jokester and like you're teaching, right? What do you do with that? So maybe thinking about what are those natural consequences and how are you going to deal with that in that setting without embarrassing the child, right? Or without that child feeling totally ostracized and put out of the room. How are we going to deal with that in a way that's appropriate, that's an appropriate consequence?
Yeah.
So I think thinking through those things when you're not in the moment is a really good way to plan out how that might happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how that you pointed out the escalation too, because somewhere along that continuum,
Right.
there is a line that gets crossed where removing a child from that environment demonstrates to the other students that is unsafe, inappropriate,
Right.
and you have to, because you're managing 30 people. And so, somebody else might need to be involved in terms of the counseling staff or administrative staff. And again, it's also for the sake of those who are witnessing this, right? We've just, again, anecdotally listening and communicating with teachers, an increase in just really volatile behavior that rapidly jumps over that line where it goes from individual engagement to managing the milieu, right?
Yes.
And having to do something a little bit different. But at the same time, hopefully it's predicated on a relationship, right? Even in
Right.
those moments, it's I love you, I care about you, still not okay.
Right.
Right.
And I think that goes back to sort of what I feel like I talk a lot about. And that goes back to like the emotions, right? Like what is going on?
Yeah.
And if this is a repetitive situation in a, in a school situation or out in a community, situation that, or at home, right? Like this child or these children are experiencing something. And if that is feelings coming from the past couple of years and we're still working through that, what are some things that we can do to recreate that support net, and what does that look like, and who can be involved? And I think that's the other thing, like you mentioned, like, do we need other people involved in this? And when we do, that's okay. We're creating more people, more to surround this child, to create that trust. And unfortunately, not all of our children have that in the home setting, and so school might be the place that is the one place, and that is so vital. And vice versa, sometimes children just don't feel that at school. They don't have that connection. They don't know who the counselor is because they're deciding that they don't want anything to do with it, so there's things that we can't make happen, but what we can do is not only model what it looks like to show respect to ourselves, show respect to other people. The one thing that I feel like I've heard a lot of is the way that some of our children are speaking to adults, and I think we need to go back to why is it important to show that respect, and how do we do it? Our tone matters. Our facial expressions matter. The way that we use our body matters. And the more that we can continue to talk about that, and the importance of that, I think we need to get back to, we're not just all sitting in our homes, in our bedrooms. Like, we are back out in our communities, and things are different. And we need to get back to what that looks like. And especially our schools should be safe places for our kids.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Super important. And again, just this odd sense of participation versus belonging, right? Because it's difficult to have those volatile interactions if you're connected with other people. And so it's not like all of this stuff can't happen simultaneously. I think it needs to happen simultaneously. Like, it's not one or the other. And so looking to manage those. I'm working in residential hospital for substance use disorders for years. Often the young people they needed somebody to model what was appropriate and what was not. And I would have conversations with young people that really just shut a door for a period of time. It's like, we can continue this when we can have a respectful conversation, because I'm not comfortable with how this is going and how I'm being spoken to.
Right.
And we'll continue it. I care about you, but something needs to change, right?
I'll tell you a quick story of my own house last night. My child, he's 10, and there is a specific game that lots of kids have been playing, and they're all talking to each other online, and they're doing their thing. And he presented his case very well. And we downloaded this particular game, and we looked at it, and we told him no. And he cried, and he was very upset. But I assured him that I see that he's upset. I understand why this is hard for him. Every family has their boundaries and their rules, and whatever those, might look like elsewhere, this is what it looks like here. And as sad as he was, and probably still is today, telling all of them he can't get it, he has lots of other ways to be social and do things with his peers and his teammates, that he did a really nice job of showing his feelings,
Mhm.
telling me how he was doing, and being respectful to me, though, right? He's upset, but he also knows that he's not going to talk to me in a certain way because we have gone through that. And
Yeah.
he knows that we don't tolerate listening to it, right?
Yeah.
So the natural consequence, if a child in my home speaks to me disrespectfully, is one, I let them know and I remove myself.
Yeah.
I will be back, or you can come and find me when you can speak to me in a better tone. And so the natural consequence is if you talk to me like that, the boundary in this home is that I won't engage.
Mhm.
He was crying, totally fine. He was very upset, but he definitely had a way that was respectful tone and did not say rude things to me. And again, this is not perfect. I'm not sharing that my 10-year-old does this well all the time, but I'm using this as an example of, you know, a way of, I told him too, I said, I appreciate how you presented what you wanted. And I
Mhm.
also appreciate the way that you took the news from us, that you didn't get what you wanted. And so I think that we need to also let our kids know when they are doing
Mhm.
a good job, right?
Absolutely.
And we need to recognize that it doesn't always have to be around when we break those boundaries or break through um, those behaviors that maybe we don't like. When we're seeing them doing the right thing, even if it's hard to find sometimes, some days, it's really important that we let them know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Full circle. That's pretty awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your expertise. Again, we've been having a lot of conversations in the communities and school districts I work with about just this reality. And so it's good to get grounded in that foundation stuff. The other conversation that maybe we can set it up for next time is talking and thinking about anxiety. And
Mhm.
talking to my behavioral health colleagues within the school systems, they're really concerned about that pathology getting created by parents and students themselves, and having an anxiety disorder is different than experiencing stress.
Yeah.
What are we doing to help young people manage stress in a productive way, in a resilient manner,
Yes.
rather than discontinuing engagements because they have
Right.
anxiety, when that's not necessarily the case, and potentially a disservice for the individuals who are struggling with
Right.
anxiety as a healthcare condition. And so
I think
um,
that's great. I think that's a great next, conversation, given where we know our kids are,
yeah,
and um, having a middle schooler, I've got, and you have a high school. It's just like I mean, even our littles, right? So I think it's important that there's sort of that line and that definition of like what is it, and when is it time for, you know, finding more resources, and when is it time to kind of let our kids go, like
yeah,
let the rope go a little more sometimes,
yeah,
instead of being,
absolutely.
yeah. So I
Yeah,
think that would be
very
great.
cool.
Did you
Nice.
want to share about the resilience conference?
Oh, absolutely,
You should
absolutely.
definitely share, that is coming up.
Yeah, so Empower Youth Network has created an annual conference called Resilience Rising. We celebrate Resilience Month in March. It'll be March 3rd this year. Marcelle will be speaking again this year on emotional intelligence. I'll be doing a workshop specific to self-care and wellness, using some metaphors. It should be an interesting time. We are looking to have a Spanish language track this year. And so it's a great opportunity for educators, lay people, counselors, to just join and have opportunities to hear from amazing speakers. There are OSPI clock hours available. Empower Youth Network has the opportunity to provide clock hours. We have a certification contract, so we can do that. So if you're an educator, we can provide you clock hours as long as you attend the conference in person. The conference will be virtual, and anybody who registers has the opportunity to watch all of the workshops for, I think, 30 plus days afterwards. And so you can actually, you don't have to worry about which track you're going on, because you can visit the other track speakers at another time. So it's pretty cool. When we post this, we'll add a link to the conference so you can check it out and hopefully join us. And yeah, and we won't wait this long to have another. Oh, we might. You never know. I shouldn't even say that. I don't want to set up expectations.
I know, but it is always fun, and it's always so thought-provoking, and I love our conversations, and I know that there are people out there that tell me that they enjoy them and miss them too. So I'm glad we did it. Thank you.
Yeah, it was great to see you again. We'll talk soon, and thank you everybody for joining us.
Okay, thank you. Bye.